another special report. NBC News presents Smoking and Health. The background and detailing of the report issued today by the United States Surgeon General's Advisory Committee on Smoking and Health. Brought to you by Alka-Seltzer for effective, speedy relief of headache and upset stomach. And by One-A-Day brand multiple vitamins, the label with the big red 1. Now here's NBC News correspondent Frank McGee.
This book, containing 387 carefully worded pages, is a federal government report. Its title, Smoking and Health, a report of the Advisory Committee to the Surgeon General of the Public Health Service. It was released at noon today, and it says, in view of the continuing and mounting evidence from many sources, it is the judgment of the committee that cigarette smoking contributes substantially to mortality from certain specific diseases and to the overall death rate. That is the basic conclusion. The report says a great deal more, and it leaves a lot unsaid. But its key points are these. Item, cigarette smoking is causally related to lung cancer in men. In comparison to non-smokers, average male smokers of cigarettes have approximately a 9 to 10-fold risk of developing lung cancer, and heavy smokers at least a 20-fold risk. Item, cigarette smoking is the most important of the causes of bronchitis in the United States today and increases the risk of dying from chronic bronchitis and emphysema. Item, it is established that male cigarette smokers have a higher death rate from coronary artery diseases than non-smoking males. Item, high mortality of cigarette smokers is associated with many other cardiovascular diseases, including miscellaneous circulatory diseases, other heart diseases, hypertensive heart disease, and general arteriosclerosis. Item, pipe smoking appears to be causally related to lip cancer. Item, cigarette smoking is a significant factor in the causation of cancer of the larynx. Statistical or not, the case against cigarette smoking was enough to disturb a number of doctors and scientists as early as 1952. Roswell Park Memorial Institute in Buffalo, New York, one of the largest cancer research centers in the world, established a cancer cigarette committee and took the first steps in an anti-smoking direction. To find the culprits in tobacco, Roswell scientists began to assay cigarette smoke in the laboratory. During the past decade, more than 10 million standard-sized brands tested. Here, the Tar Baby, the largest automatic smoking machine in the country. Via a conveyor belt, 600 cigarettes are consumed every 10 minutes, with each puffed once a minute, 2 seconds per puff. Once around the drum for 5 puffs, and then a second circuit. It will take 400 cartons to get enough condensate or tobacco tars to run a series of tests. The cigarettes are injected into the holders by a blast of air pressure and eventually ejected in the same way into a 5-gallon ashtray. The smoke collected is first refrigerated and then dissolved into solution. The complexity of the research problem is evident. One has to investigate, apart from such obvious things as nicotine and arsenic, more than a dozen chemical bases. In addition, there are more than 24 acids, a dozen phenols, and a whole host of other substances. But the tar is applied to the backs of mice. Lab animals, however, have never been affected by breathing in smoke. But Roswell scientists consider the evidence conclusive enough to yield a clear message to every heavy smoker. So much so, the Institute is distributing some 12,000 posters and matchbooks throughout New York State. So much so that it has removed all cigarette vending machines from its buildings. Roswell staff of lecturers is busy almost every week.
My purpose in being here this afternoon is not to tell you not to smoke. In your present state of good health, you may feel that you have plenty of time to burn. However, you should realize that 1 out of every 10 of you who's a heavy smoker will die from cancer of the lung. If I said to you that tonight 1 out of every 10 NFT buses that leave from in front of Bishop McMahon High School will be involved in a fatal collision, I wonder how willing you would be to take any of the buses home. If you're a smoker, you are also 3 times more likely to die from a fatal heart attack. You will have more stomach trouble, and your life expectancy is nearly 10 years shorter than a non-smoker's. For no previous generation has the question to smoke or not to smoke been such a serious one. Whether you smoke or not is a decision that each of you must make for yourself. I would not presume to infringe upon your right to make this decision. I would, however, recommend that each of you give careful consideration to the available information and to your reasons for smoking, and be thoroughly clear in your own mind as to whether or not smoking is really worth it.
In an effort to help adults who want to stop smoking, Roswell Park conducts a smoking withdrawal clinic.
We're here this evening because you people have indicated that you have a desire to give up cigarette smoking. There are many reasons why you wish to give up cigarettes. Some of it is because of the facts concerning the relationship of cigarettes and health that have become aware to you. Some of you wish to give up cigarette smoking because your doctors have recommended that you give up cigarette smoking and you have found it impossible to do so without help.
To date, almost 300 volunteers have participated, with twice that number still on the waiting list. Monthly classes average 60 persons who fill out questionnaires on smoking habits, undergo a brief physical exam, then are given a supply of nicotine substitute drugs and pills to control appetite. Nothing habit-forming, but it does help get smokers over the roughest period.
All right, these are to control, the little green speckled pills are to control your appetite. The purple pills take 2 a day, one with breakfast and one with supper. This is to control your cigarette habit. And if you urgently need a cigarette, take one of the purple lozenges.
At best, the drugs are a crutch. Just as important is the fact that each volunteer has made a mental commitment, and group therapy is evident when the clinic meets a week later.
See how much success we've had. How many people have been able to give up cigarettes completely? Can you hold up your hand? How many people have been able to give up almost completely, or smoking 25% or less of what they did before? Is there anyone that is smoking as much as he was a week ago? One. He didn't show. I'm sure there are a number of you who have questions or comments to make, and I'll be glad to try to answer any questions that you might have. Yes, sir.
For 22 years, I smoked 3 packages of cigarettes a day. I have tried for many of those 22 years to give up smoking without any success whatever. I find it astounding that as of 3 days after our meeting last week, I had no desire for a cigarette whatever. However, I have one interesting observation to make. I notice in page 3 of your weekly report, you list the word concentration.
Correct.
I happen to be the following: a lawyer and a teacher of law. I have discovered on occasions during the past week that, and it may happen now, that when I am addressing a group or a person, I find that I forget where I am. So this could ruin me. This is during the past week.
This is not.
May I ask, is that due to the medication? Is it due to the withdrawal? How long will it last?
This is not a new experience. We have had other people report identically the same thing, that they find that all of a sudden they just don't really remember what they were doing or thinking about a few moments. And it does not last very long.
It does not.
That's
gratifying.
Yes. Other questions or comments?
Wait, now, is that simply because we're eating, you know, instead of smoking, or is there something about giving up the nicotine that makes us gain weight?
We're not really sure. Originally, I felt that the reason people gained weight when they gave up cigarette smoking was because food tasted better, or because they were using things like candy as a substitute for the cigarette. But there are a number of people that we have had in these smoking withdrawal groups who have sworn that they have gained weight even though they have not increased the amount of food that they have eaten. And we don't really have a good explanation for this
It
yet.
would just be time that that happens. I suppose it would balance out. then
It
if
does
you're not
balance out,
smoking
and
or-
people who do gain weight very frequently will find that this will plateau after 3 or 4 weeks, and then it's not difficult to lose the weight that has been gained. And the lady in the back?
How long does it take for the urge to disappear?
That varies. Some people, as you heard this evening, say they don't have any desire for a cigarette at all. I have talked to some people who said that it's been 3 years since I smoked a cigarette, and I'd still like to have one, even though I know I'm not going to smoke. This gentleman.
Do others experience the feeling of irritability?
How many people have been irritable? Is that because you felt you were irritable or somebody told you you were? Oh, yes, this is quite tricky. Almost everybody has the sensation of irritability.
That was the situation even prior to today's report, and now the federal government, through this report, has put itself squarely into the controversy.